Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. We are back in War Thunder and we're having a look at a new light tank that is coming in for Sweden. This is the CV90 Mark IV in the Storm Warning dev server, and it's basically just a big upgrade over the CV90-30 Fin that was added a little bit ago. It's got a different turret, a little bit more armor, and also access to a Wally, which is basically a pair of Spike LR 280 gems. But it also does have 2 reloads for that, so don't worry, you'll have 680 gems overall. Now, if you don't know what the Spike LR2s are, they are the Fire and Forget 80 gems that they've been adding to a lot of light vehicles at high BRs. The Puma VJTF, I think it's called, and then also stuff like the Namer, the Mk.IV, and even stuff like the Freccia. And they've been buffed a few times, and they're pretty deadly nowadays, especially against targets that just stick still. And with the tandem warhead, you can overpressure stuff pretty well with these, and all you have to do is lock on and fire, and well, pray to God, to be honest. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. That's just how it goes. So the main difference between the CV90-35 and the CV90-30 and the CV90 Mark IV is that really. There are other visual differences as well, and one of them is kind of surprising. The weight of this thing. The CV90 Mark IV is 37 tons, whereas the 9030 is only 27 tons. They have added 10 tons worth of armor. Not 10 tons worth of armor on this thing, just 10 tons in general. There is a little bit of better armor, like you have the Side Pro composite armor on the side here. You also have it on the bottom here, whereas in the CV90 you just have a standard composite screen, but it doesn't really give you that much additional armor. There's a little bit more on the turret too, in the form of little pieces of armor, but once again, not really as much as what you've seen in other areas. So it's not as if it's like more beefy in the areas where people shoot you, which is, you know, generally around here. And the other part of it that they have changed to try and help with the mass addition that they've added to from the CV90-30 is the engine. So it's 10 tons heavier, and also it has 1,000 horsepower. So 1,000 horsepower, and also the same automatic transmission that the CV90-30 has. So the CV90-30 has the 625 horsepower engine, and this has the 1,000 horsepower engine. Now, after a little bit of testing, not a ton of it, we'll do a bit more later on, but for me, that it doesn't feel like the mobility is that different between the two vehicles. It's as if they married the exact amount of horsepower needed to keep this thing at the same mobility as the 9030. Now, that's not a huge issue, because the 9030 has pretty good mobility. It's just the fact that this thing's a bit bigger, it's a bit chunkier, and it's a bit easier to see. So you need it to be a little bit quicker to get to those areas first before you get hammered, right? And that is something that this might struggle with. The other part of it that kind of annoys me is the fact it has the 30mm, the Bushmaster 2 Mark 44. Now, this is a more slow-firing 30mm compared to other autocannons that are out there, and it is heavily reliant on the APF-SDS, the Mk.IV. Now, this APF-SDS is better than other 30mm APF-SDSs, but it's still not fantastic for the BR of 10.7, and, as I said, you have to get to rank 3 for this modification to use it effectively. If you're only using the standard APDS, it only gives you 87mm of penetration. That will be really poor against the vast majority of targets that you'll face. Now, you do get a laser rangefinder, which is nice. No LWS, unfortunately. You do get smoke grenades. You do get scouting. You get great thermals, which is something that a lot of these light tanks of Sweden have. And it makes them feel really good and generally pretty nice, but that gun is a bit of a letdown. I would really like this vehicle if it had access to the 40mm Akan M70B that you see on the Stridsvorden 9040 over here. This gun that is on this vehicle just gives it so much more power and so much more penetration. You can see here the Slurpager M01 gives you 170mm and a lot of post-pen effect, and that really helps this vehicle just, cream through MBTs. So that's a massive difference. You're losing a lot of pen, you're using a lot of post-pen damage, and you're having to rely on the CV90's spikes to get you through, and that's just not always going to work. It does have a lot of smoke grenades though, and they kind of look interesting because they're inbuilt into the additional armor, which I feel like might not be modeled yet, or at least might not be fully modeled yet, but it looks really cool. And also, from a crew compartment point of view, it does have an updated DM. So you have the FCS, which is here, you have the radiator, which is on the back, you have the exterior fuel tanks, radio station, and even the power system, which is down here, and the 3-man crew. So, if your turret gets popped, you die. If you get shot in the hull, unless your engine and your transmission eats it, you die. It's not exactly crazy survivable. But at the same time, you shouldn't be exposing that much to, you know, be shot in those areas. You do have a really cool commander's optic, which looks very similar to the Fletcher's. So what you can do is you can sit behind a hill, use the commander's optics to target different vehicles, and then use the spikes to finish them off. And for me, I think that's actually really good. That in general would work pretty well against most other vehicles. It also doesn't have the best targeting speed compared to other vehicles, but it's fine. Like it gets the gun on target in a decent time, and the reload rate on the actual gun, the Bushmaster, is not great either, but once again you have the spikes to back you up and a few other things. So overall, will I enjoy playing this vehicle? Probably, even though now, you know, I've played a bunch of other vehicles like the VJTF, which have access to better guns, have access to better platforms. I think this one will still be enjoyable just because of the light tank focus of it, and also because, you know, Sweden High Tier is generally pretty fun. It is on an island though, only with the Leopard 2A4 being at 10.7, so I suppose you have a great, you know, 10.3 setup to follow it, but for me, I would rather it be at 10.3, but maybe they're worried about that spike just killing everybody. Which is fair, because after playing the Puma and many others, it is one of those which is just really, really annoying to face. Like, you can just look at an enemy for like a second, fire it, and then get behind cover, and that guy can just pop, and there's nothing that they can do about it. They just die. And I can't even imagine what that feels like. Well, actually I can, because it's happened to me a lot as well, and guess what? It doesn't feel good. So that's the big advantage of a vehicle like this. You can see the turret there, not exactly the fastest. The actual elevation on the gun though is quite good, and what you can do is you can't track the planes, but what I was going to say is you can always turn the vehicle with it, you know, and make the traverse a little bit quicker around the place. So the simple thing is you can just fire off your two ATGMs, hit the target. Sometimes it'll kill them, sometimes it'll just miss, and that is the wonderful state of what the spike is. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Welcome to the gong show. So there's two going in, following the target, bonk, bonk, and yeah. One goes through the turret, kills one person, the other one goes through the bottom, kills everybody. And that's kind of the problem with this type of machine. The RNG nature makes it frustrating to play, and the RNG nature makes it frustrating to face, because every so often you just randomly die and there's nothing you can do about it. If this had the 40mm, I'd be a lot more happy with it. I still think it will still be fine, it will still be good, it will still be, you know, one of those vehicles that will do well. It just kind of annoys me that it just doesn't have that much better gun. At least the smoke grenades fire off in twos. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see you next time.
I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem, Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.